and thanks. There was some reporting yesterday about the possibility of peacekeepers from MONUSCO, if needed, going in, and I wanted to know what steps would that require. And also, there's some discussion. Burundi has UN peacekeepers and police in the CAR, and I've seen a document that says that they are not appropriately equipped. They've been given waivers and extensions to continue serving in CAR. But I wanted to know from you, what connection should there be if some of these troops were either engaged in abuses back in Bujumbura, or in terms of actually giving them waivers? Is this a leverage that the UN has to try to get better performance in Bujumbura?
I'm not going to comment on the specific Burundi CAR connection because I actually haven't seen the specific report, so let me take it up a level. Troops and police that deploy in UN missions have to be vetted. And certainly when we have information that troops or officers are implicated in human rights abuses, that is something that we as a member state share as a matter of course with the Department of Peacekeeping, and we encourage other countries to do the same. I think you've seen in recent months how training for Burundian peacekeepers, whether on the military or the police side, has been dialed back quite considerably by a number of countries, including the United States. And that's unfortunate, frankly, insofar as all of us have an interest in Burundian peacekeepers, police, and military performing well and operating professionally in other countries around the world, but there also has had to be a response to the events on the ground and to the steps that the Burundian government has taken that have contributed to this deterioration. But again, I mean, when troops or police are involved in abuse, they should not be serving in peacekeeping missions. They should be held accountable by the UN, and then, of course, in the home country. On the MONUSCO question, given the divisive rhetoric, given the history in this country, given the number of people who have been killed up to this point, and the vast numbers who are living in fear or who are fleeing to neighboring countries, we have an obligation to do contingency planning of all kind. And the fact that you have a mission nearby means that, of course, given how slow UN deployments can be and how long it takes to move people from their home country into a country that is experiencing violence, a scenario in which one looks at MONUSCO is one that has to be examined. And I think, again, this resolution is important because it empowers the UN to look at various scenarios and various contingencies. To be clear, MONUSCO is a separate mission. Those troops have their work cut out for them where they are. There has been a rise in militia violence. As you know, cooperation between the Congolese government and MONUSCO has not been what it should be. And for MONUSCO to move to another country, you might remember from South Sudan when we did intermission cooperation, it requires a Security Council resolution to move that forward. It also requires troop-contributing countries to be willing to deploy in a very different set of circumstances. So that's a complicated piece of business, and I want to stress our goal is not to have to get to that point, but our primary objective, of course, is to ensure that Burundi does not descend into mass violence. And so that's why looking at contingencies, grappling with the complexity of that option or any one of a number of options, and the East African Standby Force is doing contingency planning. Again, from our context with the AU, they are doing contingency planning. So you're starting to see the regional and international machinery kind of kick in, and it's important because if something descended very quickly, we all know from past experience that the startup costs for actually responding to mass violence can be substantial. And so again, our goal is through diplomacy and through a political solution, a political track, never to have to get to any of these contingencies.